Okay. Hello, Mark. Hello, Jay. I'm currently sitting in Berlin. We've got Ottawa and LA. That's a pretty nice distribution across the world. I like that already. Um, Maybe ask you to just briefly introduce yourself. Mark, what exactly is the North America Advocacy Division at Global Affairs?
Right. Well, it's the North America Advocacy Division is situated inside of a larger bureau that's responsible for policy and advocacy for North America. We focus on the U.S. and Mexico. Probably 90%, and I'm going to get in trouble with my colleagues if they see this, 90% of our activity is focused on the United States and advocating on behalf of the Government of Canada on our key priorities. Right now, that's environment specifically, and we will also advocate on very specific issues like Buy America, country of origin labeling, and that sort of thing. It gets very granular. We have a consulate network right across the United States, 12 consulates in the big cities that our division is responsible for coordinating. That's sort of the long and short of it.
Fantastic. And Jay, as far as we can tell, you are the USC Center on Public Diplomacy, yeah?
Yes, I am still here. Just a little introduction, right? Okay. So I'm a faculty at USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. I teach in both our strategic communication PR program and also the public diplomacy program. And so at the USC Annenberg School, we have a number of these academic centers, and I run one of them, which is the Center on Public.
Okay, fantastic. I'm at an Institute of Asian Research, and some of you work on China means that we're related that way. But I also teach now. We have a master's in public policy and global affairs, and I teach our communicating policy course. So I think we probably do some similar things in some of our teaching. But let's talk about this. Oh no, we lost him. So we'll start with you, Mark. So this is the third in a series, right? So maybe say a little bit about what the bigger picture for the whole series is, and then tell us what the plan for next week is.
Sure. Well, let me give you a little bit of a sense for, I guess, how we got here and our engagement with Jay and so on. This is the third year that I've been in this position as Director for Advocacy for North America. And the first year, we really focused on bringing digital into the work that we do, into our advocacy work. The second year was focused on integrating digital with traditional advocacy. And at that point, we struck up this interesting partnership with Jay and USC. And we actually had them take a look at one of our campaigns on environment. So all the way through the campaign, we were feeding them all the information, very transparent in terms of what we were doing and how we were doing it, so that they can critically challenge our methodology. And at the end of the day, they came up with a report. And we also thought, hey, why don't we compare and contrast this with other countries? And we decided we would try this out in LA. We brought together, it was ourselves with a case study, the Americans, the Mexicans, and the Israelis, to LA to unpack. We spent a whole day, Chatham House Rule, talking about our case studies, had academics also unpacking what we were doing and how we were doing it. And we thought it was such a great format that we would try it again. This time we did it in Rome with a number of European countries. And then for this third time, it's sort of a culmination of what we've been doing. It will be here in Ottawa, bigger and with a slightly different focus. It won't just be on the case studies it won't just be on case studies for how we're doing this public diplomacy, this intersection between traditional and digital advocacy. It's going to be how are we measuring the effects of our campaigns? How are we measuring the effects of our digital traditional efforts? And so that's going to be here. Jillian, you'll be here, which will be great. Yeah. We have a few other academics. We have, I believe, 9 other countries participating, coming from their foreign ministries. We'll have the first 2 days. First day will be Chatham House Rule. Again, unpacking these case studies on how you measure. And then the second day, we'll have a number of different private sector companies, big ones that everybody will know, Facebook, Twitter, Hootsuite, IBM, and Marcus, who am I missing? And of course, Google, also presenting and having panels on this subject. So that's kind of where we come from and how we got to these events.
Yeah, and the focus of the discussion in Rome was what? That was the last event just a month ago or so, right?
Yeah, a little bit longer in February, which was quite a nice thing considering I live here in Ottawa. It was nice to go to Rome. But it was the same sort of thing where the countries that participated, and we also had the EU, so countries and international organizations, were unpacking some of the work that they were doing and how they were doing it. And what was actually pretty interesting was there was one case study that was also unpacking what they did, an example of something that did not work, which is as useful as sort of saying how great your own work is doing and why it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find that other ministries of foreign affairs are organizing their activities in a similar way? So something like a North America Advocacy Division that probably historically grew out of public diplomacy in its origins, right? And is that fairly typical for the other MFAs that have been participating?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is really starting to pick up. The British, for example, were also talking in terms of campaigns inside of their public diplomacy. And they were clearly structured that way to accommodate those campaigns so that their mission networks would be able to carry out the campaigns. The EU was the same.
Right.
And I shouldn't tell tales out of school for those who weren't quite as well organized, but it's clear that they wanted to get there and get up to speed and get coordinated that way. But I'll have to mention that even inside of our own foreign ministry, we're a bit of a special case because we have a division that's solely focused on the Canada, US, Mexico relationship, where the rest of the world, they have one division that's responsible for all of it. And even inside of that division, they have to do other things. So we're pretty lucky here. It means that we can experiment and try things and have great relationships like we do with Jay at USC.
Right. And so
great timing for you to come back into the screen, Jay. Actually.
Perfect.
Must be something I said, huh?
Yeah, so Jay Mark was talking a little bit about how the series sort of emerged and some of the discussions at the LA meeting initially and then in Rome as well, and what's sort of the preview to next week. So from your activities at USC, how does this all fit into other things that you've been engaged in? Jay, go ahead.
I did not hear your question. The line was not clear. I think it has something to do with our Wi-Fi connection, which is sometimes can be not good.
All right. Well, you want to give us a little bit of an outlook to the discussions next week and what you're hoping for and what you're particularly curious about?
Okay. So as Mark has already explained, this is the next week's program is part of the series of efforts that we have been working with Mark's team at Global Affairs Canada. And while the topic remains the same, I certainly hope that, and I think that it will be our conversation will move to the next level because at the very beginning, so the idea was to have several foreign ministries to come together to share some of their practices. And so for us, to look at this from a research perspective, we in fact need to have, at the time we needed to have a little better understanding of what's actually was taking place in the field.
And so that's what you're getting out of these case studies and these reports from some of the ministries as well, is that you get to hear about how it's operating, what issues they're running into, what questions they have.
I think we lost him.
Yeah, have we again? Oh no. Okay.
That body LA Wi-Fi,
California, it's a developing country for internet activities apparently. So what are you looking forward to next week? What's sort of one of the pieces that you're most excited about?
I think I'm very curious to hear where other countries are with regards to this. We feel like we're really pushing the envelope on a lot of this work, but we don't really know until we actually listen to other countries and see what they're doing, and then we have an opportunity to learn from what they're doing as well. So I'm curious to see how they operate inside this sphere and how they're picking things up. It'll be a little bit different probably for them from what we're doing, because we tend to focus on very specific issues, as opposed to broader public diplomacy issues. Although right now we're looking at an environment campaign that will be that is very broad. But I'll be curious to see if they get into hard advocacy as well, and if so, how are they measuring that? Always quite keen to see how we stack up against other countries and what we can do better, maybe what we can share.
But your sense is that the way Global Affairs is organized, that your attempts at measurement are focused on more specific campaigns and issues rather than a broader impact?
We do a mix. I think it's just by virtue of our division, we have some very specific issues that we will campaign on, because we're very focused on, for example, making sure that there isn't legislation placed on pork going across the border that's going to increase the price of our meat products. That's how specific it gets for our division. Having said that, we have a brand new government in place that's very keen to show a different face to the world. Yeah. Especially on environmentalism, and we already have some interesting things coming out of COP20. And our Prime Minister in the budget has devoted a lot of money towards environmentalism. So we want to convey that image and that impression to Americans as well, to show that this country is going in a bit of a different direction now with regards to green. Yeah. And so there are those efforts that are undertaken as well. And so how do we measure that? And so it's the spectrum. Right. We're doing on both ends of that scale, but we're interested to measure it all.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'm very curious about, and this is fairly abstract really, but ultimately any of these kind of measurements will have to include meaningful qualitative as well as quantitative indicators. And I think in practicing what we're talking about, whether that's as an academic or within the Foreign Service, we often have a relatively good intuitive sense, I think, of the successes, and we can probably point to indicators of those. But then when I think about the successes that I would point to, much of those indicators are not easily replicable, and they're not easily countable, right? So that remains one of the big challenges. Is the really meaningful ones are likely qualitative, but somewhat unique to a particular issue or an interaction, a particular network position on an issue or so. But ultimately, where there's a reasonable expectation from colleagues that we also should present them with some numbers that give them a sense of magnitude, right? Yep. Do you see that as a challenge in the work you've been doing as well?
Absolutely. To bring these two things together are key.
Yeah.
The quantitative and quantitative. The digital side helps us a lot with the quantitative. And actually the qualitative too, and I'll recount a quick anecdote, then I'll hand it to Jay, because I think he probably has some more empirical things to discuss on the subject. But we had a tour that went to the oil sands, because that was important for us at one point. It still is, but in a different context. Mm-hmm. And we brought up folks on these tours from academia, from NGOs and so on, people who were sort of in the middle of the issue, not on one side or the other, but also very objective. And we also chose these people because they had a large digital following as well. That was new for us to do that. And we said, go on the tour, you can blog, you can tweet, do whatever you like. It's open. So they went on the tour, and then they started to see the things that they were seeing and understand that 90% of the water was recycled and all of these good things. And then they were starting to tweet this information out and blog on it. And then they were getting blowback from some of their folks saying, "Hey, wait a second, this isn't really what we see," or So for us, that was actually a bit of a win because we were having third-party validators validate a lot of what our messaging is, and sort of showing that it's truthful and so on, and then picking it up and then disseminating it, even if it was causing a bit of a controversy for some of their typical followers. So that was a great qualitative piece of information for us. We saw the blogs, we saw the replies to it, and we knew that we were having an impact with that particular tour in a digital space.
Right. So Jay, would you agree that finding the right mix of qualitative and quantitative indicators is what we're all sort of reaching for?
Yes, ultimately. Yeah.
And what are some examples of the tensions that arise from that you've come across? Someone's nibbling on that cable.
Oh, poor Jay.
I bet it's frustrating too. Oh yeah, there he goes again.
Gosh.
Well, so that's I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes,
I'm sure there'll be lots of ways for people to follow as well. Diplometrics is the hashtag. There'll be a live stream, right, at I think at Jay Center through USC, and on Facebook as well. Is that the plan?
There absolutely is. There's a Facebook group that we've set up, and through Facebook Live, which has just been introduced in Canada, we will be streaming certain segments of day one and most of day two through that as well. So please do connect. It'd be great to have people following along and also posing questions through those channels too.
Right. Fantastic. Well, terrific. Talk to you. I'm really looking forward to the event, and this has made me more excited. And hopefully others will be able to tune in to various channels as well and offer some observations.
Well, looking forward to having you here, Julian, and engaging with you and taking part in the event very much.
Perfect.